Have you ever felt like your happiness depends on how others treat you? Or maybe you've wondered why someone's opinion can ruin your entire day. Why do we give so much control of our emotions, decisions, and peace to others? These are questions we rarely stop to ask ourselves, yet they shape the way we live. Imagine how different life would feel if no one but you had the power to decide how you think, feel, and act. Here's a simple example. Think about a time when someone insulted you. Did you immediately feel hurt, angry, or ashamed? Now, what if instead of reacting, you paused and asked yourself, why am I letting their words control me? That one moment of reflection could transform your experience, turning what once felt like a loss of power into an opportunity to stay calm and centered. And this is exactly where the wisdom of Buddhism comes in. The Buddha taught that the power to live a peaceful, fulfilled life lies within us, not in the hands of anyone else. But here's the catch. Most of us unknowingly surrender our power every day. We let our fears, attachments, and opinions of others dictate our lives, and as a result, we forget the strength we carry within. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, the channel where we explore timeless truths and practical advice to transform your life. Today, we'll dive into how you can stop surrendering your power, reclaim your inner strength, and live with clarity and purpose. If you're new here, there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It's free, and it supports us in bringing you more meaningful content. Now, let's uncover the real reason we feel powerless in everyday situations. The truth is, we often look outside ourselves for approval, comfort, and security. We allow people's opinions, material possessions, and even past experiences to dictate our sense of worth. But in doing so, we hand over control of our lives. The Buddhist teachings remind us that this dependency is an illusion. True power doesn't come from controlling others or external events. It comes from mastering ourselves. To reclaim this power, we must first understand one crucial idea. No one can make us feel anything. The emotions we experience, anger, sadness, joy, or peace, are responses we create within ourselves. Buddhism calls this the law of cause and effect. Our thoughts and actions are the causes, and our experiences are the effects. By taking responsibility for our inner world, we regain control over how we experience life. The path to self-mastery begins with mindfulness. When we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without reacting impulsively, we stop being victims of circumstance. Instead of being swept away by anger or fear, we can respond with wisdom and clarity. The Buddha compared this to being like a calm lake. Even when the winds of life blow, the surface may ripple, but the depths remain still. Another key aspect is understanding attachment. We surrender our power when we cling to things, whether it's a relationship, a job, or an idea of how life should be. Buddhism teaches us to let go, not as a form of giving up, but as a way to free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop allowing our attachments to control us. So, as you listen to this, take a moment to reflect. What are the areas in your life where you feel powerless? Is it in your relationships, your work, or perhaps your own thoughts? Recognizing where you surrender your power is the first step toward reclaiming it. Stay with us as we continue to explore practical steps and profound wisdom to help you break free from these patterns. You're stronger than you think, and your journey to empowerment starts now. Breaking free from external control. In the flow of life, many are swept along by the currents of external forces. We are constantly influenced by the world around us, the opinions of others, societal expectations, and the pressures of modern life. The question is, do you really need to be controlled by all of this? Imagine standing still, firm like a mountain, while the winds of the world blow around you. Can you remain unshaken? That is the essence of true power. The first step to reclaiming your power is to recognize where you have handed it away. Every time you allow someone's judgment to alter your emotions or actions, you give away a piece of your inner strength. We live in a society that teaches us to seek validation from others. The question becomes, what happens when we stop seeking approval from outside and start looking within? The Buddha observed that attachment to external circumstances creates suffering. We often attach our self-worth to things that lie outside of our control. How many times have you based your happiness on a promotion, a compliment, or approval from someone close to you? When these things are given, you feel uplifted. But when they are taken away, your peace is shattered. This is not true power. True power lies within you, untouched by external events. It is the ability to be whole and at peace regardless of what the world sends your way. This is why the practice of mindfulness is so important. Mindfulness teaches us to be aware of our thoughts and emotions without reacting to them. When you are mindful, you observe your feelings and thoughts as they arise, but you do not become them. For example, if someone criticizes you, the usual response might be anger or hurt. But with mindfulness, you can notice the feelings without being swept away by them. You may feel anger, but you are no longer controlled by it. You can let it pass like a cloud in the sky. Another powerful lesson from Buddhism is the concept of non-attachment. This doesn't mean we should stop caring about things or people. It simply means that we should not cling to them so tightly that our happiness depends on them. Attachment makes us weak because it ties our happiness to things that are beyond our control. If your happiness depends on getting a certain job or being in a certain relationship, you place your well-being in the hands of things that can change in an instant. When you learn to let go of this attachment, you create space for a deeper sense of peace. To break free from external control, we must also learn to question the stories we tell ourselves. Often, we are imprisoned by the narratives we have created about who we are and what we need to be happy. For instance, you may tell yourself that in order to feel successful, you must meet certain goals or attain specific material possessions. But the Buddhist teachings challenge this idea. He asked, what if you are already whole? What if happiness does not come from having more, but from realizing that you already have everything you need within you? A key part of breaking free from external control is learning to listen to your own inner voice. Every person has a deep well of wisdom inside them, but we often ignore it in favor of the loud voices outside. The mind becomes clouded by the noise of the world, the opinions, the demands, and the expectations. But if you take a moment to sit quietly and listen, you'll begin to hear the voice of your true self. This is the voice of wisdom, the voice that tells you that your worth does not come from what you achieve or how others perceive you. You may ask, how do I begin listening to this inner voice? The answer lies in the practice of meditation. Meditation is the art of calming the mind and bringing attention to the present moment. In the stillness, you can begin to hear your own thoughts clearly, without the distractions of the world. It's like cleaning a muddy pond. Once the water is still, you can see the bottom clearly. In the same way, when you quiet the noise in your mind, you can begin to see the truth of who you really are. But breaking free from external control isn't always easy. It requires constant practice and patience. You may find yourself slipping back into old habits, seeking validation, clinging to outcomes, or reacting impulsively to external events. But every time you catch yourself, take a deep breath. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. The more you practice, the more natural it will become to stand firm in your own power, unshaken by the world. One of the greatest obstacles to breaking free from external control is the fear of being judged. We live in a world where everyone has an opinion, and many of those opinions are directed at us. The fear of judgment can cause us to shrink back, hide our true selves, or mold ourselves into something we are not. But what if you could let go of this fear? What if you could embrace the truth of who you are without worrying about what others think? The Buddha taught that fear arises from our attachment to the self. When we are overly concerned with how we are perceived, we give away our power to the opinions of others. But when we realize that our true essence is beyond judgment, beyond labels and opinions, we can free ourselves from this fear. We become like a lotus flower, growing in the mud but untouched by it. The lotus does not care about the mud, and it grows into something beautiful despite its surroundings. In the same way, you can rise above external judgments and live authentically. Another important aspect of breaking free from external control is the practice of compassion. Compassion is not only about helping others, but also about being kind to yourself. Often, we are our own harshest critics. We judge ourselves based on the standards set by others or by our own unrealistic expectations. But Buddhism teaches us to be compassionate towards ourselves. When we can learn to accept ourselves as we are, without judgment, we begin to free ourselves from the need to meet the approval of others. As you begin to reclaim your power, you will notice that your energy shifts. You will no longer be driven by the need to please others or meet their expectations. Instead, you will be guided by your own inner wisdom and sense of purpose. Your actions will no longer be reactive, but intentional. You will act from a place of clarity and authenticity, not from fear or external pressure. This shift may be gradual. There may be moments when you feel tempted to give in to external control again, but each time you resist, you grow stronger. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice standing firm in your power, the easier it becomes. And as you grow stronger, you will begin to notice that others will also start to respect your boundaries and your authenticity. You will no longer be a puppet to external forces, but a master of your own life. The journey of breaking free from external control is not an overnight process. It takes time, patience, and a deep commitment to your own growth. But each step you take brings you closer to the truth of who you are, a powerful, independent being who is not defined by the opinions of others or by external circumstances. As you continue this journey, remember that the power to live freely lies within you. You don't need to look outside for validation or approval. The more you trust in your own wisdom, the more you will find that you are able to navigate life with ease and grace, unaffected by the winds of external forces. You are the mountain, and the winds may blow, but they will never move you from your place. Understanding the illusion of dependency, there is a belief that many people hold, that we are dependent on others for our happiness, success, and sense of self-worth. It's as though our lives are mirrors, reflecting the opinions, actions, and approval of those around us. But this is an illusion, a story we tell ourselves that prevents us from seeing the truth about our own inner strength. Take a moment and think about your daily life. How often do you seek approval from others? How often do you shape your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions based on someone else's expectations or judgments? Whether it's seeking validation from a boss, trying to please friends, or worrying about how others view you, we often find ourselves chasing approval as if it's the source of our worth. But why do we do this? The answer lies deep in human nature. From a very young age, we are taught to seek validation from the outside world. Parents, teachers, and society at large often measure our value based on achievements, appearance, and behavior. As we grow older, this pattern becomes ingrained, and we begin to believe that our sense of worth is something to be earned from others, not something that is already within us. But here's the truth. Our worth is not external. It's not based on the approval of others. It's not measured by what we have or don't have. True power comes from realizing that we do not need anyone or anything to define us. We are not dependent on external factors to feel worthy, capable, or whole. This understanding can be liberating. It shifts our focus from seeking approval to looking inward for strength and guidance. When we stop depending on the approval of others, we free ourselves from the fear of judgment. We no longer feel the need to meet the expectations of others to feel good about ourselves. We begin to live authentically, based on our own values, our own wisdom, and our own inner sense of peace. The Buddhist teachings speak to this idea directly. In his teachings on non-attachment, he describes how we can become free from the bonds of dependency. He teaches us to let go of the desire to control how others see us or what we possess. Attachment to external things, people, or outcomes creates suffering because it's based on the false belief that our happiness comes from something outside of us. This is why people feel anxious, insecure, or restless, because they rely on things that are beyond their control to define their inner state. Now, consider this. When you depend on someone's praise or love to feel valued, what happens when that praise or love is not given? You feel empty. You feel unworthy. This is because your sense of worth was not rooted in your own understanding of who you are, but in someone else's opinion. On the other hand, when your worth is self-created, when you know your value without needing approval from anyone, you remain whole, regardless of external circumstances. One of the most powerful teachings of Buddhism is that we can find contentment and peace within ourselves, no matter what the outside world presents. When we learn to stop depending on others, we become less vulnerable to the winds of external circumstances. This doesn't mean we stop caring about others or their opinions. It means we stop letting those opinions govern our emotions and actions. We stop giving away our power. In your life, think about the moments when you felt dependent on others. Perhaps it was in a relationship where you relied on the other person for validation, love, or approval. Or maybe in your work, where you believed your worth was tied to your success or recognition. These attachments can be subtle, but they hold us back from realizing our true potential. The Buddha encouraged his followers to embrace a life of simplicity and detachment, not from people or experiences, but from the need to control them. Detachment in Buddhism is not about abandoning the world, but about being free from the mental chains that bind us to it. It's about learning to live in the world without being ruled by it. This shift in perspective is not easy. Our minds are conditioned to seek validation. We are often afraid of what might happen if we stop seeking approval, as if we might lose our place in the world. But the truth is, when we stop living for others and start living for ourselves, we find a deeper peace and a stronger sense of direction. We stop bending to the will of others and start listening to our own inner wisdom. When we stop depending on others for our happiness, we also stop fearing rejection. We understand that no one can take away our power unless we allow it. We become self-reliant, not in a way that isolates us from others, but in a way that empowers us to create our own happiness, no matter what anyone else thinks or does. Let's explore this further. Think about the people in your life who you believe hold some form of power over you. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, or a colleague. Now, ask yourself, if these people suddenly stopped supporting you or giving you approval, how would you feel? Would you feel less valuable, less capable, or would you be able to stand firm in your own worth, knowing that your happiness doesn't depend on their validation? This is the shift in perspective that Buddhism encourages us to make. Instead of relying on external sources for our self-worth, we can build a solid foundation of self-esteem that comes from within. It doesn't matter if others agree with you, praise you, or validate you. What matters is that you know, deep down, that you are enough. You are powerful. You are whole. One way to practice this is through mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts and emotions without attaching to them. When we feel the urge to seek validation or approval, we can pause and ask ourselves, do I really need this? In that moment, we can take a step back and realize that we are already complete. We don't need anything outside of ourselves to feel whole. When we stop seeking validation, we also stop living in fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, and fear of failure all stem from the belief that our worth is tied to external approval. When we release this belief, we free ourselves from these fears. We can begin to act with confidence, speak our truth, and live authentically. So, how can we begin to break free from this dependency? The first step is awareness. We must recognize when we are looking outside ourselves for approval or validation. When we catch ourselves seeking approval, we can pause and remind ourselves that we are already complete. We don't need anyone else's permission to be who we are or to pursue our dreams. The next step is self-compassion. Be kind to yourself as you navigate this shift. Let go of the belief that you need to be perfect or that you need others' approval to be worthy. Practice self-acceptance. Understand that you are enough just as you are, regardless of external circumstances. Finally, cultivate inner peace through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and reflection. As you meditate, focus on the feeling of being whole, of being complete. Allow this feeling to fill you up, knowing that your worth comes from within. Releasing dependency is a powerful practice that can lead to greater freedom, happiness, and fulfillment. It takes time, patience, and commitment, but as you continue to practice, you'll notice a shift in the way you relate to others and to yourself. You'll begin to see that the real source of your power has always been within you. When you stop depending on others for your happiness, you reclaim your power. You stop living for the approval of others and start living for yourself. You become the master of your own destiny, and you discover a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. This is the essence of self-mastery, the path that leads to true freedom. As you continue on this journey, remember, you are not dependent on anyone else to be whole. You have the power to create your own happiness, to live authentically, and to walk your own path with confidence. The illusion of dependency no longer holds you back. You are free, cultivating inner strength through mindfulness. In the quiet of your own mind, There is a power that can never be taken from you. It is the calm center that remains unmoved, no matter how chaotic the world around you becomes. This power is not something you need to search for outside yourself. It's always been there, waiting to be recognized and nurtured. This power is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present, of experiencing each moment without distraction or judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you reconnect with your true self. It is like finding an anchor in a stormy sea. No matter how strong the waves are, the anchor holds you steady. In the same way, mindfulness helps you stay grounded, regardless of the storms of life. When we are not mindful, we often feel as if life is happening to us. We react to the world instead of responding with clarity and wisdom. But mindfulness teaches us to pause, to breathe, and to see the world with fresh eyes. It invites us to stop being carried away by our thoughts and emotions. Instead, we observe them, letting them pass like clouds in the sky. In this way, we take back the power that was once surrendered to our unchecked reactions. Take a moment to think. How often do you find yourself lost in thought, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future? The mind, left unchecked, can easily become a whirlwind, dragging us into regret or anxiety. But through mindfulness, we can slow down this whirlwind. We can bring ourselves back to the present moment, where peace resides. This is where your true strength lies. When you are present, you are fully alive, aware, and in control. One of the simplest ways to cultivate mindfulness is through your breath. The breath is always with you, and it serves as a bridge between the body and the mind. By focusing on your breath, you can quiet the noise of the world and return to yourself. When you inhale, feel the air fill your lungs, and when you exhale, let go of tension. Each breath is an opportunity to reconnect with the calmness inside you. In Buddhism, mindfulness is more than just a technique. It's a way of living. It is a practice that influences every moment of your day, from how you speak to how you move and think. When you are mindful, your actions are deliberate, not impulsive. You act with awareness, choosing what to say and how to behave in a way that aligns with your highest values. Instead of reacting to the world, you respond from a place of inner strength and clarity. Imagine you are walking through a crowded street, and you feel overwhelmed by the noise, the people, and the constant movement around you. Without mindfulness, this chaos can make you anxious, frustrated, or disoriented. But with mindfulness, you become the observer. You notice the sounds, the colors, the movement, but you remain unaffected. You are like a tree in a storm, standing strong and unmoving, while everything else swirls around you. This is the power of mindfulness. But mindfulness is not just about observing. It is also about understanding the nature of your thoughts and emotions. Often, we identify with our thoughts, believing that they define us. But the Buddha taught that thoughts are just fleeting phenomena. They come and go. By practicing mindfulness, we begin to see that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind them. We are the space in which they arise and dissolve. When you realize this, you reclaim your power. You no longer have to be controlled by the fluctuations of your mind. Instead, you become the master of your thoughts. This is where true strength lies. Not in controlling the world around you, but in controlling your reactions. You can't stop the wind from blowing, but you can adjust your sails. Life will continue to bring challenges, but mindfulness allows you to navigate them with grace and wisdom. You become less reactive and more responsive, choosing your actions from a place of calm understanding rather than impulsive emotion. Another aspect of mindfulness is learning to embrace the present moment. Too often, we focus on what we don't have or what we wish were different. We dwell on what is past or worry about what's to come, but in doing so, we miss the richness of the present. The Buddha taught that the present moment is all we ever truly have. When you are mindful, you fully experience each moment, savoring its beauty and its lessons. This is where life happens. Not in the past, not in the future, but right here, right now. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. You realize that everything is part of the same flow. Your thoughts, your feelings, the people around you, the world itself. This understanding fosters compassion, because you can see the struggles of others without judgment. You recognize that everyone is doing the best they can with the awareness they have. And just as you would not harshly criticize a child learning to walk, you learn to show kindness to yourself and others in the process of growth. Mindfulness also teaches us to let go of attachment. We often hold on tightly to people, things, or outcomes, believing that they are the source of our happiness. But as the Buddha taught, attachment leads to suffering. Everything in life is impermanent, and nothing lasts forever. When we let go of attachment, we free ourselves from the cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. We learn to accept things as they are, without clinging to them. This doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop depending on them for our happiness. Our happiness becomes internal, rather than external. As you begin to cultivate mindfulness, you will notice subtle shifts in your life. You may find yourself becoming more patient, more aware of your surroundings, and more at peace with what is. Your reactions to stress, anger, or fear may become less intense. You might even find that you have more energy because you are no longer wasting it on unproductive thoughts and emotions. This is the power of mindfulness. It helps you conserve your energy, stay focused on what matters, and navigate life with clarity and purpose. The more you practice mindfulness, the more you realize that the power to shape your life lies within you. You no longer need to look outside yourself for answers or validation. You are the creator of your own experience. This realization is the foundation of true inner strength. You become like a warrior, not in the sense of fighting the world, but in the sense of mastering your own mind and heart. You face each challenge with wisdom, compassion, and courage. In every moment, there is an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Whether you are eating, walking, or even washing dishes, you can bring your full attention to the task at hand. By doing so, you not only increase your inner strength, but you also begin to see the profound beauty in ordinary moments. Life itself becomes a meditation, a continuous flow of experiences, each one precious, each one an opportunity to deepen your understanding and grow stronger. Remember, the key to mindfulness is consistency. It is not something you do for a few minutes each day and then forget about. It is a way of life, a practice that you weave into every aspect of your being. The more you commit to mindfulness, the more you will experience the profound shift in your life. The power to live with peace, clarity, and strength has always been within you. Mindfulness is simply the key that unlocks it. So, take a deep breath and commit to this practice. Let go of the distractions that pull you away from the present. In each moment, choose to be fully present. The more you do, the more you will discover the immense power that lies within you. And this power, once awakened, can never be taken away. The role of detachment in empowerment. Detachment. It sounds like a simple word, doesn't it? But in reality, it holds the key to a powerful truth in Buddhism. To detach does not mean to stop caring or to abandon those we love or the things we cherish. Rather, it means freeing ourselves from the invisible chains that these attachments place on our hearts and minds. It means to live with a sense of inner peace, knowing that our happiness does not depend on anything external. You see, we live in a world where attachment is often seen as a sign of love or devotion. We think that the more we hold on to something, the more it means to us. But this way of thinking is flawed. Attachment ties us to the illusion that something outside ourselves can complete us, can give us lasting happiness. And when we lose that thing, we feel incomplete, lost, and powerless. But true empowerment comes when we realize that nothing external can truly define us. This is where detachment becomes not just a tool, but a pathway to freedom. Detachment allows us to love fully, to live fully, without being enslaved by the fear of losing what we hold dear. Let's begin by understanding attachment in everyday life. Think about your relationship with an object, like a phone, a book, or even your car. In itself, there's nothing wrong with these things. They are tools that help us in our daily lives. But what happens when we begin to attach too much importance to them? Perhaps you felt frustration or anxiety when your phone breaks, or when you lose a favorite possession. Why does this happen? Because somewhere in your mind, you have placed too much value on these external things, and your inner peace begins to depend on them. In Buddhism, the concept of anicca, impermanence, is crucial. Nothing in life stays the same. People come and go, things break, and situations change. If our happiness is built on something that is not permanent, we are always at risk of suffering. But detachment helps us navigate this ever-changing world with ease. By understanding that everything is temporary, we stop clinging to things, and instead, we embrace life as it is, with all its fleeting beauty and inevitable changes. The Buddha taught that attachment leads to suffering. This is the heart of his wisdom. We become attached to our ideas of how life should be, to the people we love, to the possessions we have, and to our past experiences. But when these things change or disappear, we feel lost. The pain we experience is not from the loss itself, but from the attachment we had to the way things were. When we detach, we no longer live in fear of change or loss. We live in the present moment, fully aware that whatever we have today may not be here tomorrow, and yet we remain whole, peaceful, and free. But let's be clear, detachment doesn't mean we stop caring. Caring deeply for others, for our work, for our families, is not only natural, but it's also an essential part of being human. It's about not letting that care become a source of suffering. When we attach to something so tightly, it can become a burden. We become afraid of losing it, and in doing so, we miss the beauty of the present moment. One way to practice detachment is by simply observing. When you feel a strong attachment to something, whether it's a person, an object, or even an outcome, step back and observe your thoughts. Ask yourself, why do I feel so strongly about this? What would happen if it were no longer in my life? You might find that, although you value this thing, your sense of self does not depend on it. You are still whole, still complete, with or without it. In this way, detachment is about releasing the grip of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. All these fears come from the mind, and they are rooted in attachments. When we practice detachment, we step out of this fear-based mindset and enter a space of trust and peace. We trust that, no matter what happens, we can handle it. We trust that, no matter what we lose, we still have the most important thing, ourselves. The teachings of the Buddha show us that detachment is an act of self-liberation. When we release our attachments, we free ourselves from the need to control, from the fear of loss, and from the endless cycle of craving. And in doing so, we reclaim our power. We become like the lotus flower, which grows beautifully in the mud, but is not affected by the mud itself. No matter how murky the waters of life become, the lotus remains untouched, and so can we. Now, let's consider the role of attachment in our relationships. We often attach to people in ways that are unhealthy. We may feel that we need someone else to make us happy or complete us. This kind of attachment can lead to dependency and fear of abandonment. But the Buddha teaches that true love is not about possession. True love is about freedom. When we love without attachment, we love without expectation, without the need to control, and without the fear of losing the other person. This kind of love is pure, unconditional, and freeing for both parties involved. It's important to note that detachment is not about pushing people away or becoming cold and indifferent. It's about allowing others to be who they are, without trying to mold them into our idea of what they should be. It's about respecting their freedom and allowing space for them to grow. In this way, detachment actually strengthens our relationships. It removes the burdens of expectation and control, and allows love to flow naturally, freely, and without fear. The same principle applies to our work and goals. It's easy to become attached to a particular outcome, perhaps a promotion, a project, or a personal achievement. But when we become too attached to an outcome, we lose sight of the process. We stop enjoying the journey and instead focus solely on the destination. This attachment creates stress, anxiety, and frustration. When we detach from the outcome, we shift our focus to the present moment, to the effort we put in, and to the joy of the process itself. And when we do this, the results often come with much more ease and grace. Detachment also plays a crucial role in letting go of past pain. We often hold onto memories of hurt, betrayal, and disappointment. These memories become like chains that keep us stuck in the past, unable to move forward. But true freedom comes when we let go of these attachments to past hurts. The past no longer has control over us, and we are free to create a new future, unburdened by what has already passed. Letting go of attachment doesn't mean we forget our experiences or ignore our feelings. It means we stop letting those experiences define us or dictate our actions. We stop allowing the past to shape our present. And in this way, detachment helps us heal. It allows us to forgive, not just others, but ourselves, and to move forward with a heart full of peace and possibility. To practice detachment is to embrace the impermanence of life. We come to understand that nothing stays the same forever, and that's okay. We stop clinging to the illusion of control and instead live with the flow of life. When we embrace this truth, we begin to see that true happiness doesn't come from holding on to things, but from letting them go. It comes from knowing that we are whole, no matter what we have or what we lose. We are complete, just as we are. And as we practice detachment, we begin to understand the deeper connection we have with everything around us. We see that, just as we are not defined by our attachments, neither are others. We learn to see people, not as objects to be controlled or owned, but as beings with their own paths, their own journeys, and their own inner power. This understanding allows us to live with compassion and wisdom, free from the need to manipulate or control. In the end, detachment is not about distancing ourselves from life. It's about engaging with life fully, but without the fear of loss, without the need for control, and without the chains of attachment. It's about embracing the present moment as it is, with all its joys and challenges, and knowing that we are strong enough to handle whatever comes our way. By practicing detachment, we step into our true power. We become free, and in that freedom, we find peace. So, remember, detachment is not about giving up. It's about letting go of the things that no longer serve us. It's about finding freedom in the present moment and reclaiming the power that has always been ours. Through detachment, we become whole, we become free, and we become empowered. This is the path to true inner strength. Overcoming fear to reclaim authority. Fear is a strange thing. It can feel like a shadow that follows us everywhere, always lurking in the background, ready to strike when we least expect it. It grips us in moments of uncertainty, making us doubt ourselves, question our abilities, and wonder if we are truly capable of what lies ahead. But the truth is, fear is nothing more than a product of our mind. It is a force that exists only as long as we let it. In Buddhism, fear is seen as one of the greatest obstacles to true freedom. When we allow fear to control us, we are surrendering our power. We begin to make decisions based on what we are afraid of rather than what we truly want. We avoid risks, hide from challenges, and let opportunities pass by simply because the mind convinces us that we are not ready, not good enough, or not worthy. The first step to overcoming fear is recognizing it for what it is, an illusion. Fear is not a real thing. It is just a thought, a perception. When we are afraid, we are often imagining a future that hasn't happened yet. We imagine the worst possible outcome, and then we act as if that outcome is certain, even though we have no way of knowing what will actually happen. The Buddha taught that all suffering comes from attachment to the mind's creations. Fear is one of these creations. We fear loss, failure, and rejection. But these are all things that exist only in our thoughts. The true nature of reality is impermanence. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing lasts forever, not even our fears. The challenge is to remind ourselves of this truth when fear arises. The Zen teachings speak of the importance of being present in the moment. Fear thrives in the future. When we live in the present moment, fear has no power over us. It cannot reach us here and now because the present is always safe. The mind may wander, the body may tense up, but if we bring ourselves back to the present moment, if we simply breathe, observe, and let go of our thoughts, we find that the fear loses its grip. Think of fear as a storm. A storm may rage, winds howling and rain pouring, but no matter how fierce it is, it will eventually pass. Fear, too, will pass if we let it. We do not need to fight it. We do not need to make it disappear. We simply need to stop feeding it. The more we focus on our fear, the stronger it becomes. But when we shift our attention away from it, when we return to the present moment, the fear begins to dissolve. One of the key teachings of Buddhism is the concept of non-attachment. This doesn't mean we stop caring about things or people. It means we stop clinging to the idea that we need things to go a certain way. When we let go of this need for control, fear begins to lose its power over us. we start to see that we are not defined by our circumstances or by what we fear. We are defined by how we respond to those circumstances. Overcoming fear requires us to trust ourselves. The more we trust in our ability to handle whatever comes our way, the less we fear it. And the more we trust in life itself. Life is always unfolding, and it will take us where we need to go, even if it's not where we expect. Every experience, whether good or bad, is an opportunity for growth. Fear can't stop us from growing unless we allow it to. Think about a time when you were afraid to try something new. Maybe it was a big decision, a change in your life, or an opportunity that felt too big to take. The fear of failure or rejection held you back. But what happened when you finally took that step? Often, the thing we feared the most never turned out to be as bad as we imagined. And in taking that step, we discover that we are capable of far more than we give ourselves credit for. When we face our fear, we are not only reclaiming our power, we are also expanding our sense of what is possible. The more we face our fears, the smaller they become. And with each fear we overcome, we build a foundation of strength, confidence, and courage. Buddhist meditation teaches us to observe our thoughts without judgment. When fear arises, instead of reacting to it, we observe it. We notice how it feels in the body, the tightness in the chest, the quickening of the heart, the tension in the mind. We don't try to push it away. We simply observe. And as we observe, we begin to realize that fear is just another passing sensation. It's no different from any other feeling. It comes and goes, just like everything else in life. The key to overcoming fear is not to resist it, but to accept it as part of the experience. Fear is natural, and it will always arise from time to time. But we don't have to let it control us. We can choose how we respond. And when we choose to face our fear with courage and mindfulness, we begin to reclaim the authority over our own lives. Every time we face fear, we are stepping into our true power. We are saying, I am not afraid. I will not be controlled by my thoughts. I will trust myself and trust life to guide me. This is the essence of true freedom. It's not about eliminating fear altogether. It's about not letting fear rule us. It's about recognizing that we are not our fear, and we are not limited by it. In the Zen tradition, there is a saying, the obstacle is the path. This means that the very thing we fear is often the very thing we need to face in order to grow. Fear is not something to be avoided. It is something to be embraced. The more we embrace our fears, the more we step into our true power. So, the next time fear arises, instead of shrinking away from it, stand tall and face it. Take a deep breath, and know that this fear is just a passing cloud. It does not define you. And as you face it, you will discover a strength within you that you never knew was there. This is the path of reclaiming your power. It is a journey that begins with one simple step, choosing not to let fear control you anymore. Remember, fear will always be with us, but it does not have to be our master. We are the ones who hold the reins of our lives. And when we choose to step forward, even in the face of fear, we become the true masters of our own destiny. Transforming pain into personal power. Pain is something every person experiences, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. It's inevitable. But what if you could transform that pain into something powerful, something that makes you stronger instead of weaker? What if your suffering was the key to unlocking your greatest potential? Pain doesn't have to be a burden. In fact, it can be one of the most important tools for growth. The Buddha himself taught that suffering is a natural part of life. In his teachings, he often spoke of the Four Noble Truths, the first of which acknowledges that suffering is part of the human condition. We all face it. The loss of loved ones, the frustration of unmet desires, the inevitable changes we cannot control. But the second noble truth teaches us that this suffering has a cause: our attachments, our desires, and our inability to accept things as they are. When we suffer, it is often because we are clinging to something that is slipping away. We might hold onto a past version of ourselves, a relationship that's no longer serving us, or a job that brings us stress instead of fulfillment. We try to control everything around us, but control is an illusion. The more we try to control the uncontrollable, the more pain we experience. This is where the wisdom of Buddhism teaches us to change our relationship with pain. Instead of resisting it, we can learn to embrace it as a powerful force for transformation. To transform pain into personal power, the first step is acceptance. Pain is not something to be avoided or suppressed. It is something to be acknowledged. When you stop denying it and start accepting that pain is part of life, you begin to see it in a new light. The next time you feel pain, ask yourself, what is this pain trying to teach me? Every challenge, every difficulty has a lesson to offer if you're open to it. Pain has the ability to break open your heart, to help you grow, to push you towards self-realization. Let's consider an example. Think of the pain someone might feel after a relationship ends. This pain is real, it stings, and it can feel overwhelming. But in that pain lies a chance for self-discovery. The pain may show you where you have been too attached, where you have relied on someone else for your happiness, or where you have lost touch with your own sense of worth. If you can sit with that pain, without trying to escape it, you can begin to transform it. One way to transform pain is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present with whatever is happening, without judgment. When you feel pain, you can use mindfulness to observe it rather than react to it. Instead of getting caught up in stories or narratives about why you're in pain, you simply notice the sensations in your body. You notice the tightness in your chest, the heaviness in your heart, or the tension in your shoulders. You observe without labeling it as good or bad. You simply allow it to be. This practice of non-judgmental awareness helps to loosen the grip that pain has on you, and slowly, the intensity of the pain diminishes. But mindfulness is only one part of the equation. The Buddha also taught that compassion is essential when it comes to transforming pain. Compassion is the ability to feel for others and for yourself. When you experience pain, you can practice self-compassion by offering yourself kindness instead of criticism. It's easy to be hard on yourself when you're struggling, to think that you should be stronger or better. But Buddhism teaches that true strength comes not from avoiding weakness, but from embracing it. When you allow yourself to feel pain without judgment, you give yourself permission to heal. Compassion is also about understanding that pain is universal. Everyone suffers in some way, whether it's through illness, loss, or disappointment. When you feel pain, you can connect with the shared human experience of suffering. This connection can be deeply healing. Instead of isolating yourself in your pain, you can use it to develop greater empathy for others. You realize that you are not alone in your suffering, and this awareness can help you transform pain into a source of connection, rather than separation. Another key element in transforming pain into power is the practice of non-attachment. Attachment is what causes us to suffer. We get attached to people, outcomes, possessions, and ideas. When these things change or are taken away, we feel pain. The more we cling, the more we hurt. Non-attachment, however, is not about rejecting life or people. It's about recognizing that everything is temporary. This is the nature of existence. The things we love, the relationships we cherish, and even our own bodies will change or fade over time. When we can accept this impermanence, we free ourselves from the fear of losing things. We can still enjoy life deeply, but without the desperate need to hold on to anything forever. To practice non-attachment, begin by acknowledging that you cannot control everything. Even though it might feel uncomfortable at first, start to let go of the need to control your pain. Allow it to come and go naturally, without trying to fix it or force it away. The more you practice this, the more you'll find that your pain loses its power over you. It no longer controls you because you no longer need it to be any different than it is. Another practice that can help transform pain is gratitude. In the midst of suffering, it can be hard to see anything to be thankful for. But there is always something to be grateful for, even if it's as simple as the ability to breathe or the love of a friend. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's right. When you focus on the things that are good in your life, it changes your perspective. It reminds you that even in the darkest times, there is still light. Gratitude can be a powerful tool in transforming pain into strength because it reminds you that you are never completely without resources. You always have something to hold on to, something to appreciate, even in the hardest moments. Finally, understand that your pain does not define you. You are not your suffering. Your true self is something deeper than the temporary emotions and experiences you go through. When you recognize this, you begin to separate your identity from your pain. You are the observer of your pain, not the pain itself. This realization is empowering because it helps you to step into your true power as a conscious being. You have the ability to witness your pain, learn from it, and ultimately transcend it. Transforming pain into personal power is not something that happens overnight. It's a practice, a journey. But every time you sit with your pain, without trying to escape it or judge it, you are taking a step toward greater strength. And every time you transform pain into compassion, gratitude, and acceptance, you are reclaiming your power and your peace. This is the essence of self-mastery, learning how to navigate the inevitable challenges of life without losing yourself in them. Through mindfulness, compassion, non-attachment, and gratitude, you can turn even your most difficult moments into opportunities for growth. You have the power to transform your suffering into a source of wisdom, strength, and personal empowerment. And in doing so, you unlock a deeper connection to yourself and the world around you. The Buddhist teachings on self-reliance. Imagine a peaceful lake. The water is calm, clear, and undisturbed. Now, picture a storm passing through. The surface of the lake becomes choppy, rippling with waves, yet the deeper waters below remain unchanged, steady, and still. The lake's depth is like the mind of a person who practices the teachings of the Buddha. The outer world may cause turbulence, but the inner world remains unshaken. This is the power of self-reliance, the ability to stand firm in the face of life's storms. Self-reliance is not about pushing others away or rejecting the help of others when it is needed. It is about learning to trust yourself, knowing that you have the strength and wisdom within to face life's challenges. The Buddha taught that true peace and freedom come from within. No one and nothing outside of you can provide lasting fulfillment. This is the essence of self-reliance. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of cultivating an inner foundation, one that does not depend on external conditions, circumstances, or people. The Buddha referred to this inner strength as sila, moral conduct, samadhi, meditative concentration, and prajna, wisdom. These three aspects form the bedrock of self-reliance. Sila represents moral discipline, the understanding that our actions, words, and thoughts have consequences. When we live with integrity, we create a solid foundation for ourselves, one that cannot easily be shaken. When you act with kindness, honesty, and respect, you strengthen your ability to rely on yourself. You don't need to seek validation or approval from others because you know in your heart that you are living in alignment with your values. Samadhi, or concentration, refers to the mind's ability to focus and remain steady, regardless of what is happening in the outside world. When the mind is scattered, it is easily influenced by the opinions of others, by the desires of the moment, or by fear and doubt. But when we cultivate concentration, we can direct our energy and attention toward what truly matters. Meditation is the practice of training the mind to become still, to observe thoughts without reacting to them, and to return to a place of calm when life feels overwhelming. The third aspect of self-reliance is prajna, or wisdom. Wisdom is not about knowing everything or being intellectually superior. It is about understanding the nature of reality and recognizing the impermanence of all things. When we see the world clearly, without attachment to how we think it should be, we stop clinging to things that cannot give us lasting peace. Wisdom allows us to make decisions that align with our deepest truths, free from fear, doubt, or confusion. When the Buddha spoke about self-reliance, he was not teaching that we should isolate ourselves from others or live in complete independence. Rather, he was teaching us to cultivate an inner strength that allows us to act with integrity and wisdom, regardless of the external circumstances. This kind of self-reliance is the foundation of true freedom. A powerful example of this teaching can be found in the story of the Buddha's own life. After years of searching for truth through external means, through teachers, practices, and philosophies, the Buddha realized that true wisdom and liberation could not be found outside of himself. He had to look within. The moment he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and vowed not to rise until he had found the truth, he embraced self-reliance. He trusted in his own ability to see clearly, to understand deeply, and to find peace without depending on others. Self-reliance is the willingness to face the world with an open heart and clear mind. It is not about avoiding challenges or difficulties. Instead, It is about trusting that you have the strength to navigate life's ups and downs. Just like the calm depths of the lake, your inner self remains steady even when the outer world becomes turbulent. A key element of self-reliance in Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness means being fully present in the moment, aware of your thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. When we are mindful, we are not swayed by the opinions of others or by the chaos of the world around us. Instead, we become centered in the present moment, where true peace can be found. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to listen to ourselves, to understand our true needs and desires, and to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than confusion. Another aspect of self-reliance is the ability to take responsibility for our own actions and choices. In Buddhism, we are taught that we are the creators of our own karma. This means that the actions we take, the words we speak, and the thoughts we have all shape our experiences. When we accept responsibility for our actions, we reclaim our power. We no longer blame others or external circumstances for our suffering. Instead, we understand that we have the ability to change our lives by changing our thoughts, words, and actions. The Buddha also taught that self-reliance is about letting go of attachment. Attachment to people, places, possessions, and ideas can make us feel as though we need others to be happy or secure. But true self-reliance comes when we understand that nothing external can truly provide lasting happiness. It is only by cultivating inner peace and contentment that we can be truly self-reliant. One of the most powerful ways to practice self-reliance is to stop comparing yourself to others. When we constantly measure ourselves against others, we give away our power. We begin to feel inadequate, insecure, and unsure of ourselves. But when we learn to trust our own path, when we stop looking for validation from others, we reclaim our power. We stop living in the shadows of others and start living authentically. Self-reliance is also deeply connected to the practice of compassion. This may seem counterintuitive at first. How can compassion and self-reliance go together? But in Buddhism, true compassion arises from a place of inner strength. When we are not constantly seeking approval or validation from others, we are able to offer compassion freely, without any expectation of receiving anything in return. Compassion comes from a place of abundance, not scarcity. When we rely on ourselves for our own happiness and peace, we are able to share that peace with others. The Buddhist teachings on self-reliance are not just for monks or spiritual seekers. They are for everyone. In our daily lives, we can practice self-reliance by taking responsibility for our emotions, our actions, and our choices. We can cultivate mindfulness, let go of attachment, and trust in our own wisdom and strength. When you are self-reliant, you no longer look to the world to tell you who you are or what you should be. You define yourself by your values, your actions, and your inner wisdom. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a powerful creator of your own life. The path to self-reliance is not always easy. It requires courage to face our fears, to take responsibility for our lives, and to trust in our own abilities. But the rewards are immense. When you are self-reliant, you are free. You are free from the need for approval, free from the weight of expectation, and free from the fear of failure. In the end, the Buddhist teachings on self-reliance remind us that the power to live a peaceful, joyful life lies within us. By trusting ourselves, by cultivating inner strength, and by living in alignment with our deepest truths, we can face any challenge with confidence and clarity. Living with empowerment, a call to action. Listen closely, my dear friend. You have traveled far on this journey, learning step by step how to reclaim your power. But today, we arrive at the most important lesson of all, the one that ties everything together. This is not just about knowing or understanding. This is about living. To truly embrace empowerment, you must carry the wisdom you've gained and weave it into the fabric of your daily life. Let us begin with a question. What does it mean to live empowered? Is it about being strong all the time? Is it about never feeling fear or doubt? No. Empowerment is not perfection. Empowerment is freedom. It is living with the understanding that no one can take away your peace unless you let them. It is knowing that no matter what storm rages outside, the calm within you cannot be disturbed unless you allow it. Think of a tree, deeply rooted in the earth. When the wind blows, its branches sway, its leaves may fall, but the tree does not lose its ground. In the same way, you must learn to root yourself firmly in your inner strength. Life will test you. There will be moments of pain, moments of loss, and moments of challenge. But an empowered mind does not collapse. It bends, adapts, and stands tall again. How do you live this way? Begin each day with awareness. Before the rush of the world pulls you in, take a moment to sit quietly. Breathe deeply. Remind yourself, today, I will not give my power away. This simple practice creates a shield around your mind, a reminder that you are in control of your thoughts and actions. But awareness alone is not enough. You must also act. Empowerment is built through the choices you make. When someone speaks harshly to you, pause. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with patience, or choose not to respond at all. In that moment, you have exercised power over yourself. When fear whispers that you are not good enough, challenge it. Step forward, even if your knees shake. In that act of courage, you have reclaimed control over your life. Buddhism teaches us that the source of suffering is attachment. To live empowered, you must practice letting go, not just of material things but also of expectations, grudges, and the need for approval. Letting go does not make you weak. It makes you free. When you are no longer controlled by what others think, you begin to live authentically. Your actions come from a place of truth, not fear. Take relationships, for example. How often do we hand over our power in the name of love or friendship? We allow others' moods to dictate our happiness, their opinions to shape our self-worth. But an empowered person loves without losing themselves. They give without expecting something in return. They walk away when respect is no longer present. This kind of strength comes from understanding that your value is not dependent on anyone else. You are whole, just as you are. Now, let us speak of failure, for it is one of life's greatest teachers. Many fear failure, thinking it a sign of weakness. But failure is not the opposite of empowerment. It is a part of it. Each time you fall and rise again, you grow stronger. Each time you face difficulty and do not give up, you reclaim a piece of your power. Remember the lotus flower, which blooms in muddy water. It is the challenges of life that shape you, refine you, and help you blossom. And what of success? True empowerment is not measured by wealth, status, or recognition. It is measured by the peace you carry within. A person who owns nothing but lives with a calm, steady mind is far richer than one who has everything but is enslaved by their desires. Buddhism reminds us to find joy in simplicity, to treasure the present moment. When you live this way, you are unshakable. Now, as we near the end of this journey together, ask yourself this. What will you do with your power? Will you keep it hidden, locked away in fear? Or will you use it to create, to heal, to inspire? An empowered life is not selfish, it is radiant. When you live in your strength, you light the way for others to do the same. Your peace becomes a gift to the world. Remember, this path is not walked in a single day. Empowerment is a practice, a way of living that grows stronger with time. There will be moments when you stumble, when you feel weak, when doubt creeps in. Do not be discouraged. The fact that you are aware, that you are trying, is already a sign of your strength. As we conclude, let me leave you with this thought. The power you seek has always been within you. It is not something you need to find. It is something you need to remember. Every breath you take, every choice you make, is an opportunity to reclaim it. Stand tall, my friend. The world may push and pull, but you are no longer a leaf in the wind. You are the master of your mind, the creator of your destiny. Thank you for walking this journey with us. If this message resonated with you, if you feel even a small spark of empowerment within, let that spark grow. Share it with others who need to hear these words. And before you go, remember, there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So please, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. Together, let us continue to grow, learn, and live empowered lives. Your power is yours. Claim it, live it, and let it shine.